Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to this latest episode for the Mack and the Movies podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Lambert. Today, we have an action-packed collection of films featuring the toughest SOB from the WWF, WWE, whatever, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The films on the docket, we have The Condemned, Hunt to Kill, Recoil, Tactical Force, and Maximum Conviction. Now let's jump right into the movies. Recoil is a wealthy TV producer with a shocking idea. Collect some of the world's most dangerous criminals on death row, drop them on an island, and have them kill each other, all while broadcasting it all over the internet. These criminals were selected to play off of nationalistic tendencies of the viewing audience. Each criminal has an explosive ankle device. The last criminal standing will earn their freedom. Among the participants is Jack Conrad, a Black Ops soldier who was captured by foreign authorities, who was disavowed by his own country. There is no shortage of subplots. There's Jack's girlfriend coming to terms with the recent revelation that he is still alive. The FBI is frantically trying to locate the island, all while dealing with roadblocks in an effort to rescue Jack. Two of the combatants are a husband and wife. Yeah, this is a blatant Battle Royale knockoff. This is Battle Royale with cheese. A lot of cheese. Enjoyable cheese. It's a throwback to the late 80s action movies like Cobra and Commando. It's fun, grisly, gritty. It's an offering akin to one of my favorite comic book movies, Punisher Warzone. One question I have about the original Battle Royale, the Japanese called Classic, if the students were dropped on the island one at a time every 2 minutes, would they have to change the title to Royal Rumble? Non-fans of professional wrestling everywhere are scratching their heads in confusion. Despite the fact that I enjoyed The Condemned, I can't overlook the hypocritical nature of the moral of this film. The film tries to have this anti-violent message and how viewers should know better than to watch such programming. I just rolled my eyes at this nonsense. I felt the same way about this grandstanding as I did with the Canto Bight sequence from The Last Jedi. With that sequence, you have Lucasfilm and Disney making an anti-capitalist statement. Yet, in real life, Disney was buying a whole entire other movie studio, further expanding their borderline monopolist empire. Here we have a film made by WWE Studios, executively produced by Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself, talking about how violence shouldn't be treated as a form of entertainment. Meanwhile, you have Mick Foley being thrown from the top of the Hell in a Cell, Owen Hart dying from a failed stunt apparatus, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's injuries at the hands of the Nexus, and even the recent facial injuries sustained by Becky Lynch from Nia Jax. Vince made his money from the blood, sweat, and tears of the people working for him. I'll let Iron Sheik speak for me.
Fucking bullshit!
This was not the first time Steve Austin was put in front of a movie camera outside of the WWE. He has a small presence in the documentary Beyond the Mat, and made his feature film debut in the Adam Sandler remake of The Longest Yard. His pre-2007 TV credits include Celebrity Deathmatch, Nash Bridges, The Dilbert Cartoon, and The Bernie Mac Show. In Condemned, Austin brings a no-nonsense attitude that reminded me of 80s Charles Bronson. He doesn't go all out on emoting or showing charisma. He just has this determined look on his face and rarely changes that look through the length of the film. Including fellow WWE wrestler Nathan Jones as one of the other criminals is as good as an excuse as any to incorporate wrestling moves in the fight sequences. We see a hip toss, an armbar, and a back body drop. Basic stuff that could be easily incorporated into a real fight. Former footballer turned character actor Vinnie Jones is having a blast in this film and makes for a welcome contrast to Austin's stoic performance. If you're looking for a charismatic villain, Jones has you covered. From his debut in Guy Ritchie's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, he's made a nice career for himself. Be it comedy, horror, action, drama, and kids' films, he's proven to be surprisingly versatile. Interesting enough, Austin was originally going to be playing Jones's role, but when WWE took charge of the production, Austin was recast into the lead, and Jones was cast shortly after. Other members of the supporting cast do fine. Robert Mamone plays producer Recoil in a way that makes you think that WWE tried to cast Ray Liotta, but went with his understudy instead. Overall, Condemned was more entertaining than it had any right to be. Despite the message being convoluted, it's well worth watching if you have some beers and friends who want to laugh at a goofy action film.
They pulled off the perfect heist, but their escape just turned cold.
Smell good, girl.
I don't think so.
What is going on here?
He had his hands on the girl.
You're gonna help us cross the border by foot. She's dead if you don't.
You go 3 weeks without food out here, but only 3 days without water.
You really are Mr. Survival.
Just want to keep her safe.
So are you gonna do something or what?
Now, his territory, his rules.
I can hear you!
Where are they going?
I don't know. I told him I was gonna catch up.
Catch. But I hunt to kill.
Jim Rhodes is a border patrolman staking out a seemingly abandoned trailer. His partner, Lee Davis, thinks it's nothing, but instinct tells Rhodes otherwise. They investigate to find a meth lab in the trailer. They exit to call in for backup in a hazmat unit. Inside the trailer, some of the cookers were hiding under the trailer and come up through a trapdoor. Armed, they shoot Lee while Jim fires back. The exchange starts a fire in the trailer. Just as the trailer explodes, Jim makes it out, but the severely wounded Lee was inside during the detonation. A time later, a group of robbers pull off a major heist. Their contact, Lawson, backstabs them and runs off with the loot. One of the robbers, Banks, sneaks a tracking device on Lawson and they trace him near the border between Montana and Canada. We meet back with Jim, struggling in the aftermath of the meth lab incident. While on an imposed vacation, he can't get over Lee's death. He's also having a tough time with his rebellious daughter, Kim. After a shoplifting incident and being brought to the sheriff's office, Jim and Kim get mixed up with Banks and his crew. Jim is forced to help Banks navigate the Montana woods and get the loot back from Lawson. If The Condemned was Steve Austin's Battle Royale, then Hunt to Kill is Steve Austin's Cliffhanger. For those who may be too young or can't recall offhand, Cliffhanger was a criminally underrated action film with Sylvester Stallone and John Lithgow. Same basic premise with some tweaks and twists from the original to help Hunt to Kill stand on its own. If there was one issue I had with the film, it's Jim pushing his luck with his daughter's safety while being held hostage by Banks. On 2 or 3 occasions, Jim tries to make moves for his daughter to escape and they backfire royally. I would think after the second time Banks would have had enough and took a drastic step. Yet he keeps giving leeway to Jim and Kim. Banks is a wily villain, but he doesn't have the bite to match his bark. Another moment that took me off guard was where Jim kills one of the members of Banks' crew. I'm not going to say who, but this member of Banks' crew was sympathetic to Kim when Jim is seemingly killed. This character takes on a protector role. When Jim goes on the offensive to save Kim, Jim throws a spear and kills this character. I thought this was the one member of Banks' crew that shouldn't have been killed since they were almost completing a redemption subplot. Other than that, the film is fine on its own. It's toned down on the action front compared to the Condemned. Hunt to Kill starts out slow, with the action kicking in at the final third. Then you get Austin kicking ass and taking names. You have the inevitable fight between Austin and Gary Daniels. When I saw Daniels in the credits, I got excited just for the brawl he would have with Steve Austin. Talk about a nice dichotomy of styles. You had Daniels with his martial arts skills against Austin with his roughhouse brawling style. As a performance, Austin continues the Bronson-style delivery and body language. Gary Daniels doesn't have a lot of range as an actor, but his fighting skills are unquestionable. These two deliver on what is expected by both. In the late 1990s, I remember seeing Gil Bellows in Shawshank Redemption and Ally McBeal. Seeing him as a villain instead of a charming love interest was a much welcome change of pace. As Banks, he goes full dollar store Heath Ledger Joker. Similar to Vinnie Jones, Bellows plays opposite to Austin's performance, and it works. We see Bellows do a nice job of taking a stiff clothesline from Austin like a pro. Fans of 2000's Battlestar Galactica will recognize Michael Logan. Despite being top billed on IMDb, don't expect to see Eric Roberts for very long when he appears. Marie Avgeropoulos does a decent job as Kim. I find myself taking her side whenever Jim tried to free her from Banks' custody. A few times I was thinking, Jim, just wait for a more opportune time because the current moment isn't it. Hunt to Kill is fine for what it is. If you want more frequent action, then this isn't the film you want. If you're into a slow burn, then Hunt to Kill would be to your liking.
I love you.
Like you scratched. I came here for Rex.
You come for one of them, you get them all. Drake runs this town. Meth, guns. He's the mayor. We're all just paying rent.
No, I don't want to see a whole lot of new faces. No feds, no ATF.
I'm gonna enjoy killing you.
We got a score to settle, don't we?
So if you're gonna shake the cage, go for it. But leave me out of it.
Do you remember?
Where'd you learn to fight like that?
From fighting.
Ryan Verrett is a former Dallas police officer and the only survivor of a massacre that kills his family. Verrett adopts the life of a vigilante who goes after people who evaded justice. The film opens with Verrett taking down a rapist. Verrett then moves on to his next target in the town of Hope in the state of Washington. Verrett takes down his target but ends up in the sights of the local biker gang, The Circle, led by Drake. The Circle is involved in running drugs and selling arms. Turns out Verrett's target, Rex, was the brother of Drake. Meanwhile, the FBI forms a task force led by Agent Sutton to track down the vigilante. Their leads guide them to Hope, just in time for tensions between Verrett and Drake to come to a head. This is Steve Austin's Death Wish, which brings the Charles Bronson comparison full circle. The addition of Lachlan Monroe as Agent Sutton would make him the Vincent Gardenia of the film. He knows about the vigilante and becomes an unexpected ally to Verrett. Verrett's methods of revenge are not limited to firearms. He throws a guy off a cliff, he ties a guy to the hood of a car and drives him into a meth lab, blowing him up in the process. You get some decent fight sequences, all building up to the fight between Danny Trejo and Steve Austin. Over the course of the film, the action is well spread out, but to a lesser degree than in The Condemned, and more so than in the Hunt to Kill. Danny Trejo as Drake has the menace, but Trejo was not in the best shape when compared to Austin. Trejo was sluggish in his movements during the fights he was in. He also doesn't play his character in an opposite manner to Austin. Both play their character in similar fashion. Can I talk for a moment about the classic Hollywood redemption story of Danny Trejo? He grew up in a working-class family, the son of a construction worker. During his adolescent years and his 20s, he was frequently in jail, serving a few terms at San Quentin. He had his battles with drug addiction. He overcame both his life of crime and drug abuse to become a youth addict counselor. He also earned a respectable reputation as a boxer in the San Quentin lightweight and featherweight divisions. One of his patients was having drug issues while working on the film Runaway Train, directed by Andrei Konchalovsky. When on set, he was offered an extras role. From there, screenwriter and former San Quentin inmate Edward Bunker offered him a position as a boxing trainer for actor Eric Roberts. Konchalovsky was impressed with Trejo's work. He offered him a role on screen as a boxer. From there, Trejo's career went off like a rocket. He later discovered he was a long-distance cousin to director Robert Rodriguez and would go on to appear in many of his films, including Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn, the Spy Kids series, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and Machete. Other films in his extensive filmography include Michael Mann's Heat, Con Air, and Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. If there was one actor that just screamed for a biopic, it would be Danny Trejo. The supporting cast is filled with decent talent. Serinda Swan is absolutely a spitting image of Lindsay Lohan. Noel Guglielmi is fine as Rex. Monroe, often associated with comedic roles, does a good job as Agent Sutton. Keith Jardine plays Crab, one of the main henchmen for Drake, and he makes the most of his screen time. Recoil is a decent revenge action film. It's a good film to start with if you're doing a Steve Austin marathon. The film has action, but you're not bombarded with it.
I got $250,000 in property damage, and I got wounded hostages. You will all report for mandatory retraining.
That son of a bitch stole something that belongs to me, and I want his ass now. Hello? Jesus Christ. Where is the case?
This changes everything.
We're gonna do what we always do. Take care of business. You're wasting my time. More importantly, you're pissing me off.
I really hope you know what you're doing. Hang on!
But you can't hide, sunshine.
Oh, A grocery store robbery is taking place with many innocent civilians held hostage at gunpoint. The SWAT team, led by Captain Frank Tate, is called in to defuse the situation. They proceed to kick ass and take down the robbers. While saving the hostages, they cause some injuries to them and property damage to the tune of $250,000. As a result, they are forced to go into training at a remote warehouse. Just before Tate's team arrives at the warehouse, members of rival mobs encounter one another. On one side, you have the Italian mob. On the other, there is the Russian mob. A mutual associate has hidden loot in the warehouse. They both want the loot, but the arrival of Tate's team adds more tension to the situation. While Tate's team is training, the rival mobsters bicker. They're overheard, and one of Tate's SWAT members goes to investigate. They are quickly gunned down, but not before firing off their weapon to warn Tate and his team. Before Tate and the team can check on their fallen brother, the mobsters find out that the SWAT team is in training and not using live ammo. When confronting the mobsters, try to bluff the mobsters, but to no avail. They are gunned into hiding. Cut off from the truck, they have no ammo and can't radio for help. To make matters worse, more members of each mobster's faction arrive. Outnumbered and outgunned, Tate and his crew need to be resourceful for their own survival. Out of the 5 films I've seen for this episode, Tactical Force may be the most comedic of this batch. There is a lot of banter between Tate and his crew, not like that of the Police Academy movies, but more so to the film adaptation of the TV show SWAT with Samuel L. Jackson and LL Cool J. The opening action sequence in the grocery store has some absurd moments, notably with Michael Jai White stunning a robber with a BB gun he carries for good luck. In addition to the SWAT comparison, you have elements like the remote setting of the warehouse, the lack of resources, and the main heroes being grossly outnumbered and outgunned. This recalls the Christmas classic Die Hard. I don't care what Bruce Willis thinks, Die Hard is still a Christmas movie. Austin gets to show some personality in this film, which was sorely needed by this point in my viewing sessions for this episode. Austin has a great sense of comedic timing and cadence in telling a story. Look no further than his recalling an encounter with Sasquatch.
So I was just hanging out by myself, and I see this big motherfucker in the distance coming towards me. And I said, even from a distance, I knew this was a big motherfucker. I said, holy shit, man. I grabbed my damn pocket and made sure I have my pocket knife. Always have a pocket knife in your pocket, people. I'll tell you one thing. It's what I told you 2 years ago. Every man that walks down the street and every woman ought to have a damn pocket knife in case you need to open an envelope or cut a piece of rope or do this or that or protect yourself.
Or his video for BuzzFeed where he tried different mixed drinks.
That's got to be a green apple teeny. Apples are good for you, so an apple teeny a day probably would keep the doctor away. And that's taken from an alcoholic standpoint of view. I'm done with this drink. I would like another, please.
Austin shares some funny moments with the other cast, and this puts the film above the others I've seen. Michael Jai White plays SWAT Sergeant Tony Hunt. This film is a treat since we get to see him take down some jabronis with his martial arts and acrobatic skills. From what we see on film, White is having a good time with the cast in the action sequences. Yet, according to IMDb trivia, he was not happy with the finished product. Lexa Doig and Steve Bakich round out Tate's team. Doig made a nice career for herself, appearing in prominent sci-fi programming like Andromeda and Stargate SG-1. She was also in Jason X as Rowan, the main female protagonist. Talk about a callback that goes all the way back to episode 2 of this podcast. Geesh, time flies. Bagich had a steady career, but X-Men fans will remember him for his blink and you'll miss it appearance as Dr. Hank McCoy in X2 X-Men United. Actor stuntman Peter Kent plays the head of the Russian backup. He's made a living as the stunt double for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Other horror fans and I may remember him best as the resurrected cadaver and reanimator that kills the dean of Miskatonic University and Herbert West drills through his torso. A number of familiar faces pop up in this film. Adrian Holmes and Mike Eglund from Hunt to Kill return. Keith Jardine from Recoil makes another appearance. Tactical Force is an appreciated mix of action with comedy sprinkled in. It's a good film for what it is. It was great to see Austin show more personality and exercise some of his humorous chops.
$200 million. Secret financial information. So what's your story?
I'm a courier for a non-U.S. intelligence agency.
4,000 ways to get killed down there. So, watch your ass.
Thanks for trying to cheer me up.
The transfer unit is here. Copy.
All right, look, man, nobody moves. Wait till I get there.
There's only transfer papers for 2 prisoners.
Problem?
I heard you're supposed to move all 6.
Do not release the prisoners.
You're gonna have to talk to the warden.
Police do not know about this place. Where the fuck are they?
Bradley, we got active hostiles up in here.
Fuck me.
You better ramp up and get it done.
What's that noise? It's inside the crusher. Get up!
A secret military penal facility is in the process of being decommissioned. Black Ops agents Cross and Manning are hired to oversee the procedure. The only element keeping the decommissioning from being complete is awaiting for federal marshals to transport the remaining prisoners on site. A small group of federal marshals arrive, led by Chris Blake. Their paperwork shows that they're only assigned to pick up 2 of the remaining prisoners instead of all of them. Blake is led to the warden, where it is revealed his crew are mercenaries. They take over the prison, while Cross, Manning, and a small squad of their fellow agents are the only means of stopping Blake. Turns out one of the prisoners of interest to Blake was a courier with an implant that contains sensitive information. The implant is linked to the courier's heartbeat. If she dies, the implant's information is deleted. Maximum Conviction reminded me a lot of the John Carpenter classic Assault on Precinct 13. You have a base being shut down, not unlike the police station. No weapons and ammo are available. With the facility being the state that it's in and as secretive as it is, there is little to no chance to call for outside help. A small group of people must fend off an unknown number of assailants. The chemistry from the pairing of Steven Seagal and Steve Austin made for an entertaining viewing. The comfort they had in their dialogue scenes suggests that these guys were clear friends outside of this production, and that familiarity added some endearment to the film. The fights were good too. Seeing Austin take out guys with knives and a propane tank was cool enough, but the real joy was seeing a clearly overweight Seagal take guys out just by quickly slapping them in the face. almost E-Honda style. The fights not involving guns with Seagal were amusing just because the cinematography, the editing, and the fight choreography were just trying to hide that Seagal isn't as agile or in his shape as he was decades earlier. Michael Paré as Blake is the main antagonist, and he's entertaining in a low-budget equivalent to Tom Berenger kind of way. He never loses his mean streak, especially in a scene where he cuts off the fingers of the warden as a method of interrogation. Paré is one of those actors you've likely seen in a dozen movies and not realize it. He got his big break in the 80s classic Eddie and the Cruisers. He's done his share of indie projects like The Virgin Suicides for Sofia Coppola, The Last Outlaw for Canadian filmmaker Brett Kelly, the recent Puppet Master The Littlest Reich. He made a mainstream appearance in The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey. He was essentially Uwe Boll's go-to actor, appearing in 8 films under the German director. I highly, highly recommend Tunnel Rats 1968, especially for all those cynics who are quick to label Boll as the worst movie director of all time. In fact, you can expect a defense episode of Uwe Boll not long into the new year. Maximum Conviction is a solid action thriller. You have 2 strong leads that work well off of one another. Michael Paré makes for a great bad guy. The film is a good time to be had. Film ranking time. I'm not going to do best from worst. That's harsh since I didn't end up hating any of these movies. There's nothing here as bad as Tortured Angels or Women's Camp 119. I'll do a marathon schedule instead. This is the order to best enjoy these films for a Stone Cold Steve Austin movie night. The first one would be Recoil. The second one would be Hunt to Kill. Third would be Tactical Force. At number 4, I would put Maximum Conviction. And to close out the marathon, I would use The Condemned. Overall, Stone Cold Steve Austin has made some of the more enjoyable movies starring a professional wrestler. I'll drink to that, and I'm sure he would too. For next Friday, I will be uploading an episode with special guest J. Blake Fischera. He's the author of Score to Death, Conversations with Some of Horror's Greatest Composers, as well as the host of the companion podcast of the same name. He's a co-host for the podcast Saturday Night Sleepovers. He's a musician, TV editor. The man can wear more hats than the Hydra. I'm really looking forward to this. Then, in 2 weeks from today, which will be November 30th, I'll be taking a look at the first 5 films of the Italian action comedy duo Bud Spencer and Terrence Hill. I've played the video game Homage, Slaps and Beans. Now I'll actually see them work their art. I'm Mackenzie Lambert for Mack and the Movies. Until next time, take care, folks.
I love alcohol.